Hello children, today we are going to study a very interesting chapter, living organisms and their surroundings, part A, chapter 9. Chapter we have to study the organisms and the surrounding where they live, components of environment, adaptation, habitat and types of habitat, terrestrial habitat, for example, desert, mountain region and grassland. The another is aquatic habitat. Example, ocean, ponds and lakes. First we will discuss about the trip planned and visited by Paheli and Buju. When they went on vacation, they traveled many places. One of them was River Ganga in Rishikesh. They climbed the mountains of Himalayas. Oh, it was very cold. They saw there many trees having cone-shaped structure and sloping branches. Dear children, you can see here cedar, oak, deodar and pine trees. Definitely they are having cone-shaped structure, needle-like leaves and sloping branches. You have to identify carefully because we will differentiate these plants from plains. On the next trip, they visited Rajasthan and moved on camels through hot deserts. They also collected different kinds of amazing cactus plants. You can see here. Some other animals like rats, snakes, and lizards are also found there. Finally, they visited Puri. This place is full of nice beaches with beautiful casuarina trees. You can observe the trees which is situated at the lower side in middle picture. Some other animals like crabs, fish, turtle, other kinds of crabs, snails, birds and whales are also found there. At last, they thought that all the places were so different. Some were cold, some were hot and dry, and some places were so humid. And yet all these places had many living creatures or organisms of different kinds. When they come back to home, Bujo found a tiny spider in his cupboard. So there were no place on the earth which is without the living creatures. So they concluded that organisms found in different areas are so different from one another. They depend on their surroundings in different regions. Let us fill a table of some animals and plants which are found in different surroundings. We will start from a forest. The trees are neem tree, peepal tree, maple, and the animals bear, fox, lion. On the mountains, the trees are cedars, pines, cinnamon, and the animals are yak, mountain goat, and snow leopard. In the deserts, the plants are cactus, golden poppy, brittle brush, and the animals are snakes, camel, desert bighorn sheep. And at last in the sea, the plants are kelp, seaweed, corals, and algae. And these plants are found in the sea, and the animals are crab, fish, and octopus. Children, you can add more examples after discussing with your parents and friends. Students, do you know what kind of the components are present in our surroundings? It is very important to know about the components of the environment. They are of two types. Number one, biotic component. The living things in a habitat are known as biotic components. Example, plants, animals, and microorganisms. The microorganisms are too small to be seen with naked eye. We cannot see them, but we can see them only with the help of microscope. Example, virus, bacteria, algae and fungi. The second is abiotic components. The non-living things in the habitat are known as abiotic components. Example of these components are rocks, soil, air, sunlight, heat, and water. Dear students, do you know some specific changes in their bodies make them comfortable to live in their surroundings? These changes are called as adaptation. We can define the presence of certain specific features or habits which enable a plant or an animal to adjust and live in its surrounding is known as adaptation. Actually, organisms want to live in safer place where they can easily get water, air, food and all other requirements, that is called habitat. The surrounding where the organism live is called habitat. Several kinds of plants and animals may share the same habitat. Habitat are of two types. The first is terrestrial habitat and the second one is aquatic habitat. Terrestrial habitat is the habitat where the plants and animals that live on land. Example, forest, grassland, desert, coastal and mountain ranges. Students, we find that organisms exist in a very cold as well as hot climatic conditions. How do they survive there? Really, it's a very difficult. That's why some changes takes place in their bodies to survive in these difficult conditions of the environment. Do you know? Many kind of organisms die, but those who adapt themselves in difficult environmental conditions in their own way will survive. This is the reason we can see large varieties of organisms present in different habitats. Let us know about some habitat, their biotic factor and abiotic factors, and with some adaptive features of animals. Let's start with some terrestrial habitat. First we study about the ship of desert, that is camel. As you can see here, the place of the desert is very hot in the daytime and cold in the nights. In spite of this, the animals and plants live in the desert. Let us study some specific features in camel. Camel have long legs which help them to keep their bodies away from the heat of the sun, and that is hot sand. They store food as fat in its hump. On the basis of the hump, we can divide the camel in two types. Number one, dromedary camels, which have only one hump on its back. The second one is Bactrian camel, which have two humps on its back, which store fat on its back. It can be used when food or water is scarce. The next feature is they can store water in its body. They excrete very small amount of urine. Their dung is dry. They do not sweat. So, loss of very little water from their bodies help them to live many days without water. Now we can see some other adaptive features in the body of camel. The hoof of the camel is well suited for walking on sand. The large white feet are divided in half and the pad of camel's feet are covered with thick protective soles which protect them from intense heat of the sand. The last character is the long eyelashes prevent sand from falling into the eyes. And actually, in the eye of camel, there are three types of eyelids are present. In desert, some other animals are also found, like rats and snakes. We will study them. They do not have long legs like camel has. To stay away from intense heat during the day, they stay in burrows deep in the sand and they come out only during the night when it is cooler. Dear students, you can see in the upper diagram what kind of the burrows are there and in what way they protect their body. Now we move to the next part of the lesson. We see some desert plants, how they survive there. Before studying the characteristics of the desert plant, I want to discuss with you about an activity of chapter 7, getting to know plants. The activity is about for transpiration. And how can we check them? We take two leafy plants and a cactus plant, which is covered by polythene bags. For a few hours, we can keep them. After this, when we can see them, we can observe some droplets of water are deposited inside the polythene bags of leafy plant, which is much more than the cactus plants. Then we can conclude that the cactus plants help in reducing the loss of water. So let us find out what other adaptations are present in the desert plant. Desert plant lost very little water through transpiration. Their leaves in desert plants are either absent, very small, or they are present in the shape of spines. This helps in reducing the loss of water from the leaves through transpiration. The stem is very special. It is thick, fleshy, and green. Because of the green color, the stem is able to do the process of photosynthesis. The stem is also covered with thick, waxy layer, which help to retain water. And what about roots? The roots go very deep into the soil for absorbing water. Now we move to mountain region. The habitats are very cold and windy. In some areas, snowfall may take place in winters. Here is also a large varieties of plants and animals are found. The trees are normally have cone-shaped, sloping-like structure and needle-like leaves. This helps the rainwater and snow to slide off easily. We have also seen, I think you have remembered these plants we can see in our second slide. Animals living in mountain regions are also adapted to these cold surroundings. As we go on the mountains, the surroundings change and we can see different adaptations at different heights. Now, some animals are also living there in mountain regions. These animals are some of the examples are yak, snow leopard, and mountain goat. In case of yak, they have long hair to keep them warm. Snow leopard has thick fur on its body, including feet and toes. This protects its feet from the cold when it walks on the snow. And what about mountain goat? It has strong hooves for running up the rocky slopes of mountains. Nextly, we move to grassland. Here we have to study two animals specifically. The one is lion and another is deer. A lion lives in a forest or a grassland and is a strong animal that can hunt and kill animals like deer. It is light brown in color, which help it to hide in dry grasslands when it hunts for prey. The eyes are placed in front of the face, which allow it to have a correct idea about the location of the prey. Lions have long claws in their front legs that can be withdrawn inside the toes. And what about deer? The deer also lives in forest and grassland. It has strong teeth for chewing hard plant stems of the forest. It has long ears to hear movement of predators like lion, tiger, etc. And what about eyes? The position of the eyes are not in front of the face, but the eyes on the side of its head, which allow it to look in all directions for danger. And the speed is the speed of the deer has them to run away from the predators. In this way, they survive in their habitat. And the number 2 is aquatic habitats. The plants and animals that live in water are said to live in aquatic habitats. Example, ponds, lakes, rivers, and ocean. We will study one by one. First of all, we have to study about the ocean. Some aquatic habitat, the ocean. Fish. The fish are adapted to live in the sea. It has streamlined body to help them to move easily in water. Have gills to help them to use oxygen dissolved in water. The another animals which also present in ocean are squids and octopus. They do not have streamlined shape, means pointed at both ends. They stay deeper in the ocean and near the seabed and catch any prey that moves towards them. What about dolphins and whales? They do not have gills. Then how do they breathe? They breathe in air through nostrils or blowholes, which are located on the upper side of their head, which allow them to breathe in air when they swim near the surface of water. The last feature is very special. They can stay inside the water for a long time without breathing and come out to the surface from time to time to breathe in air. Now we have to discuss the specific adaptations in case of fish. Definitely they have streamlined body. This is about boat-shaped, means pointed at both ends, which help them to easy movement in water without the thrust of water which is applied from the front portion of the fish. Second is slippery scales on their bodies, which protect them from water and help them to easy movement through water. Flat fins and tails help them to change directions and maintain balance in water. The gills for respiration. The gills are very fine, thin membrane-like structures. They use oxygen dissolved in water. In the lower diagram, you can see the water current enter through the mouth and then pass on through the gills. So by the process of diffusion, they can absorb oxygen from water and release carbon dioxide. Another adaptations related to aquatic habitat is ponds and lakes. About plants. Some plants have roots fixed in the soil below the water. Roots are much reduced in size, and the main function is to hold the plant in place. We have studied the main function of the root is to absorb water and minerals, but here the function is slightly different for aquatic plants. What about stem? The stem of these plants are long, hollow, and light. The stem grows up to the surface of water while The leaves and flowers float on the surface of water. These are floating plants. The another aquatic plants are submerged. These plants are totally submerged in water. You can see the diagram which is given. The top left side is hydrilla. It is completely submerged plant. All parts of the plants grow underwater. Some of the plants have narrow and thick ribbon-like leaves can bend in flowing water. Some submerged plants, the leaves are highly divided, which help the plant to easy flow without damaging. Some animals we have to study in pond habitat, for example, frogs. How the bodies of frogs are adapted to live in pond as well as on the land. Frogs can live both inside the pond water as well as on the land. They have strong back legs that help them in leaping and catching the prey. They have webbed feet which help them to swim in water. Dear children, we have discussed only a few common animals and plants compared to wide varieties that live in the different habitats. But you have wide varieties of plants and animals around you. So, observe them carefully and collect information. Thank you.